Thank you very much. I remember the day well. The sun was shining, and I was going to be spending the time with my children in the garden. It was going to be a great day. But by the end of the day, my world had been turned upside down. My life felt like it was falling apart. Why? My marriage was over. I didn't want to admit it at that point, so I set out on a journey to save my marriage. Well, that was my intention, but that wasn't the path that I was on. I didn't know it, but I was on a path to save myself. And in doing that, explore what it meant, or what it meant for me to be a man in the modern world. And where did I get it wrong? Well, it was patterns that were set for me. Patterns that come from the past. And those patterns echo today in men. It meant I felt short in my marriage, and it means for men, often we fall short elsewhere as well, including in the workplace. Over the last 100 years, the world has changed hugely. After 2 world wars, society has been transforming. A huge change has been around gender equality and gender diversity. And I want to focus on this topic, but with regard to men. So, my grandparents were part of the silent generations, all those that came before baby boomers. Men went out to work, women stayed at home. My parents are boomers. Women were taking their seats in the workplace in the 60s. My mother was no exception. Since then, the equality and diversity agenda has progressed, but there's still an awful lot to do. The changes have been huge, for us men in particular, but we don't fully understand them, let alone what they mean for us. And those changes should have been positive for all of us, but too often that's not the case. Looking at the workplace, the benefits that could and should have accrued from equality and diversity all too often are not being fully realized. If we go back to those silent generations and look at what it meant to be a man at that time, it was about power. It was about the accumulation and the exhibition of power. And how did man exhibit that power? Through winning. Self-worth increased through winning, by being strong and demonstrating strength through the domination of others, by accumulating money and controlling it. After all, money is power. And by controlling his environment and those around him. This is Power Man. And Power Man wants you to look up to him, to revere his strength, to allow him to maintain control so that he can fulfill his destiny of power manhood. And Power Man has been around for centuries, millennia even. This is how kings ruled. This is how businessmen shaped their enterprises, and it's how husbands ran their homes. These are the echoes of the past, and they have deep roots, but we, as men, need to break them. Excuse me. Sorry. Now, thinking about workplaces, a lot of these enterprises were set up by silent generations. That means they were entirely male. They were formed by men, they were shaped by men. And the culture within them was set by what it meant to be a man at that time. That is a power man. And here's the kicker. A lot of those environments have not evolved alongside diversity and equality. And how does Power Man show up in these work environments? He's driven by success, his own success, that is, or the fear of failure. He needs to be right, and he will use attack and aggression to defend his position. It's a culture of judgment and criticism. Now, most of us are not happy at work. A recent Gallup poll showed that globally, full-time employees, full-time workers, both men and women, only 15% are fully engaged at work. In the UK, 90% of workers are unhappy in their place of work. Does that surprise? Would you be happy in that environment? When we come into the workplace, we have to step into that power man frame. We have to compete with our colleagues to win our share of the success. If we look through the lens of masculine and feminine energies or characteristics, unsurprisingly, Power Man is aligned with masculinity. Looking further, though, looking closer, A big chunk of power man sits in the shadow or wounded masculine. So when those that are mostly masculine, predominantly men, show up in the workplace, they're falling into their shadow masculine. For those that are feminine, predominantly women, it's worse. They have to step from femininity into masculinity before falling into their shadow masculine. We have all this feminine energy coming into the workplace, and we're squashing it, we're suppressing it, we're pushing it into masculine, shadow masculine, which we already have abundance of. And we're losing the benefits that we should be getting from equality and diversity. So things need to change, obviously, and it's not just a numbers game. We need to create safety for women to show up as their natural selves. We need to create safety for everyone to show up as their natural selves. We need to allow that femininity to come to the table. We as men need to step out of our power man and into being an empowering man. We need to be present, non-judgmental, demonstrate integrity, be focused and disciplined, be encouraging and supportive, be grounded and of service, be honest, logical and accountable. Men, do you identify with these characteristics? I know I do. So, I'm a keen sailor, and a month ago I was racing a yacht in Cowes Week, the biggest regatta in the UK. I had a charter on board, a load of people that I had never sailed with before. And yet, we won our class, and on the way we won all but one of our races. The crew had been out on a different boat the year before, and they had a very different experience. They hadn't really enjoyed themselves very much, and they hadn't performed well. Now, it makes a huge difference how a crew is managed to the performance of the boat, as well as the enjoyment of the experience of the crew. And there's a saying, a quiet boat is a happy boat. If you have a skipper who's constantly shouting, barking orders, getting frustrated when things go wrong, blaming the crew despite not having invested the time to understand their capabilities, it's not much fun. Yet that was the experience of the crew last year. This year, time was taken to explain to them how to sail this boat that they were on, what the different crew positions were, what was required in each, and how those positions fit together. Questions were encouraged. After each race, we would sit down for a debrief and ask the crew to feed back on what went well and what they felt could be improved for future races. We built a huge amount of trust within that crew, and they had such a good time, they've already booked us for next year. Spelling it out, last year they were in a power man environment. This year they were empowered. And I mentioned something else in there as well, trust. How much trust do you think there is in that power man environment? Contrast that with the empowering environment. Which one fosters trust? And what role do you think trust would play in driving that re-engagement in the workplace? If you are familiar with the Edelman Trust Barometer, you will know you will already have insights into the benefits that trust brings in life and in the workplace as well. But you'll also know that trust is being eroded. Now, I want to leave you with an exercise, something to take away. So next time you're in the workplace, observe those around you and yourself. Look at how often people connect over complaining, criticizing, and gossiping. Yes, they do it to bond, but it's also an abdication of responsibility. This is stuff that's happening to us. We don't own it. We can't change it. We have to endure it. Sure, we can step in and fix someone else's problem and be a hero, but it's all framed externally and negatively. So this is what I'd like you to do. Get one of these, or even just a rubber band, and put it on your wrist. Next time you catch yourself complaining, criticizing, or gossiping, snap it and swap it to the other wrist. If you're being honest with yourself, you'll find you're doing it quite a lot. And I'll give you a challenge. Try and work towards doing it for a day. Once you get there, you can start pushing on and stringing days together. A real challenge is to get to do it for a month. It took me well over a year to get to that. Now, many of you will find this difficult and stop doing it. But the real benefit isn't in hitting a day or even a month. The real benefit is if you take the time to reflect at what's going on for you at the point you have to snap and swap this band. You will learn an awful lot about yourself and how you show up. And that's the value. Now, people are still going to complain, criticize, and gossip around you. But you have a choice. You can take the easy option and join them in that and fail that challenge I've just given you. Or you can take the conversation in a different direction. You can be present without judging. You can ask questions that are designed to tease out the root cause of the underlying problem without assigning blame. You can engage those around you and tease out from them what their ideal outcome would look like here. And then when you've got that, you can start working with them towards that and building towards it. You'll be amazed at how quickly people will follow your lead. So men, you have a choice. You can either stay in the past as a power man, or you can step into being an empowering man in the modern world. Women, as power man, we have let you, as well as ourselves, down. But there are empowering men out there. Look out for them, and when you find them, encourage them and partner with them. Let's all build trust together and make this a better place for all of us. Thank you very much.